before we try to fit for every market. Okay, this market, they don't like sex. This market, they don't like violence. This market, they don't like kill police. This market, they don't like, because at that time, I never think my movie can release in America or Europe, only for Asian market. So this is why I try to fit every market. Later on, becoming, we know around about this. So this is why in my movie, you can see there's a lot of action. And if you really want to say that's a violence.
Okay, so right now I want to talk about some minor differences across the different copies of the export cut of Police Story. The first difference is this editing error in the penultimate reel of the film. This has its origins in the Japanese cut of the film, which seems to have been the first cut assembled. It's this medium shot of Inspector Wong and Frank outside the police station after Kevin has taken Raymond hostage. For some reason, this shot is used in some copies of the export version, while others use the proper shot the Hong Kong cut uses. Since the point in time where this particular reel begins in the export cut differs from the Hong Kong cut, it could be possible that the footage they used to construct the export cut initially was sourced from an element for the Japanese version, hence the inclusion of the incorrect shot. The second difference is the credits roll. The way the roll is timed varies between different copies. But there seems to be two main versions. One has the Guy Laroche watches optical on the textless roll, while the other doesn't. Police Story has like 3 cuts and 4 different English dubs. Now, the initial cut of Police Story is the Japanese theatrical version, which runs about an hour and 45 minutes. We open with a sequence unique to this cut that sets a more comedic tone for the film right from the get-go, with more formal introductions to many of the supporting characters in Chan's police precinct. Then we proceed to the briefing on Mr. Chu Tao, the local heroin kingpin the Hong Kong police force is planning a sting-op on, codenamed Operation Boar Hunt. Next, we move on to the shanty town where Mr. Chu is preparing to conduct a major drug deal. While there are a few more added sequences, scraps of extra footage, and shifted scenes in this version, the biggest difference is the ending of the film, which ends with Chan being arrested along with Selina Fong and Chu's gang, followed by an outtake reel that differs from the other 2 cuts. The Japanese version was later released on tape and laserdisc, and an HD version of a release print eventually surfaced on the 2012 Japanese Blu-ray, which was later ported over to Eureka's recent Blu-ray release. The version of Police Story most people are familiar with is the 99-minute Hong Kong theatrical version. Gone is the longer title sequence and the comedic opening from the extended version, and we cut straight to the briefing on the suspects, which has been both shortened and cleverly intercut with the following sequence at the shantytown. Certainly a far more captivating introduction, and it demonstrates how brevity and refinement in editing can fundamentally change the feeling of a scene. The theatrical version omits Chan's arrest and instead ends on a freeze frame, then followed by its own set of outtakes. The extended and theatrical versions both use a music score by Michael Lai, which centers around a leitmotif, the theme song Hero Story, sung by Chan during the ending credits. There's many variants of this theme, both dramatic and comedic in nature. I'm particularly fond of the renditions that use the Onde Maintenant instrument, which was also featured in the score for Ghostbusters. Finally, there's the international export version, which runs 87 minutes, 13 minutes shorter than the theatrical version. The pacing is quickened, with a longer dramatic scene from the shootout in the shantytown removed, and several extended sequences of comedy deleted. The focus here is on the action. The export version omits Michael Lai's score, and in its place brings composer Kevin Bassensit on board to rescore the movie. I absolutely adore this version of the movie and its music score, which kind of sounds like if Seinfeld was an action movie instead of a sitcom. Hero Story is retained for the end credits, but a different leitmotif takes its place in the actual score. I just can't get enough of this music score, and I wish it had a soundtrack release so bad. The export version also adds an insert of Selina Fong pressing record on the tape recorder. Now that the cuts have been introduced, we can turn our attention to the 4 English dubs this film possesses. The first international English dub of the theatrical version was written by Barry High, who voiced Sergeant Mao in the dubbing itself.
You can't be. Surprised?
This version only saw commercial release on an obscure Dutch VHS and remained fairly elusive until recently, only gaining an official digital release with Eureka's Blu-ray, which in turn was sourced from the exact same Dutch VHS. This dub was then cut down to create the export version, which premiered in English at the New York Film Festival in 1987.
Jackie Chan's Police Force, the film that stole the show at the New York Film Festival.
The film also went under the title Jackie Chan's Police Force, and the title card was changed accordingly. This version saw a release on VHS by Cinema Group in 1988, and the film would continue to be released in the United States under the Police Force title for about a decade. It's worth noting that for the record, a Cantonese version of the export cut does exist and had at least one VHS release in Hong Kong. Clips are featured in a 1989 episode of Son of the Incredibly Strange Film Show made during the production of Miracles. Release history aside, let's talk about the dubbing itself.
I ain't sure about Kevin.
The dubbing cast is very typical for the time it was recorded. John Culkin provides the voice of Jackie Chan's character Chan Kakui, named Kevin Chan in this version.
She's been given police protection. Any more crap from you, I'll arrest you. Right now I'm just a cop, but I might be a movie star someday. I might have to kiss my leading ladies real passionately. What'll she do then? Kill herself?
If we didn't fight to make you look good, you won't be sitting on your butt in here!
Kevin!
Back off! Keep back!
Matthew Oram voices Bill Tung as Inspector Wong.
What'll he do? I guess he'll try everything to stop her from appearing in court. That puts the officer protecting her in danger. Oh. While you're on escort duty, there's a hazard allowance. $40 a day. Better than nothing at all. So apply for it. Don't spend it at once.
And Warwick Paul Evans voices Kwok Hom Lam as Superintendent Lee.
Do you realize the time we spent planning that operation? But still you left posts unmanned without my orders, and the prime suspect almost got clean away. Didn't Inspector Wong give you specific orders? I've nothing against Kevin, but I can't have people thinking that if a cop kills someone, he gets away with it. There's no cover-up, it's one law for all.
Maggie Cheung's May character is voiced by Elizabeth Oram.
Of course I'm mad. You insulted me in front of her. You lout. You don't care. Go away. Let me go. No. You're supposed to have dinner with us. Mom hates people who are late. What shall we do? I'm worried about you.
But who really stands out is Simon Broad, who voices a number of characters including Mr. Chung, the conniving lawyer.
You saw one half of the bus. You couldn't see the other half, right?
Yes.
Now, on the side which you couldn't see, would you not agree with me that anything could have happened there? You cops have gone too far this time. Assaulting innocent citizens. Violence in public.
Police Story subtitles haven't changed too much since the theatrical release, and the dubbing script never strays too far from the meanings that are at least conveyed in those. It's a pretty faithful adaptation. I can't say the same for the later dubs, but we'll get to those. Some of the names have been localized. Aside from Kevin, Chuto became Tom Koo, Sergeant Man became Sergeant Mao, Mad Wing became Jackknife, and the Shuttlecock police station is referred to only as the Border Police Station in the dialogue. The performances all fare pretty well for a dub of this kind, and none of the voice actors feel miscast. And the export cut is a fun alternative way to enjoy the dub. I can say at this point already that it's hands down the best English version. Next, we have New Line Cinema's dub. I'm gonna say up front that this is my least favorite version of the movie in any capacity. In 1998, New Line Cinema released a redubbed version of the export cut to VHS, Laserdisc, and cable. It also removed Kevin Bassinson's score. My biggest problem with this version is that it has no musical identity. The new score is a generic mishmash of recycled cues from J. Peter Robinson's score for Police Story 4, First Strike, and Rumble in the Bronx, and none of the pieces stand out in the way that Lai and Bassinson's music did. There are essentially no central leitmotifs. Each cue is sloppily inserted in an attempt to match the mood of a scene. New Line also added new sound effects. You'd think there'd be room to improve a mono mix made in the mid-80s, but the replacements only date the film further.
Who's gonna shoot?
Here's what the gunshots sound like in the original mixes of the film.
Huh?
And here's what they sound like in New Line's version. It's just stock digital workflow Hollywood library crap. Disney did the same thing for the initial mix of Castle in the Skies dub, when the original gunshots were just fine. The final battle in the shopping mall has also been fully scored. In the original versions, the music is purposefully pulled back to give greater emphasis on the action happening. This is the climax of the movie, and all you need to hear are the blows and the shattering of glass. There was never any need for music here. Now, I probably sound like a hypocrite, because I hate the lack of music in a lot of scenes in the extended version of Police Story 2, but at least the music that ended up in the unquestionably superior theatrical and export cuts was good. This, on the other hand, doesn't really cut it. The climactic chandelier stunt, which everything in the narrative has led up to. How is it handled in the original versions? Here's Michael Leigh's score. Perfectly fitting, right? Now, Bassinson's score. Admittedly, it doesn't have that same wonderful flourish that Leigh's score has, but nonetheless it still ends on an exciting and fitting crescendo. Now, New Line's version.
Let's get out of here!